We have the man, the myth, the legend, Adam Dellemonico in the building today. How you doing?
Good, Dante. That's good to
Getting
be
ready to get it rolling or what?
Yeah, man, all the way down from Rhode Island.
I have so many good things to say of what you do, what you brought to the business. Like, you've literally changed the game. I feel like in like 6 years, you've done so much. And like, I credit you for a lot of my business, for what you've done to help me and just kind of learn and grow. But like, at the end of the day, like, I want to hear a little bit more about you. Like, we do a lot of the educational videos.
Right.
We're always on the phone. Like, we don't even get a lot of FaceTime to see each other.
No, for sure. And whenever we do, it's good. Always a good time. I appreciate having me here. And
Yeah.
Go from day one. I mean, the first deal I ever closed was with you.
Yep.
Back in the day in 2017.
We're gonna get into that too.
Wild.
Like, I want to like talk about like your timeline a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
how, like, obviously, okay, so you're from Burlington, Mass,
Yes. Yep.
and now you're in Rhode Island.
Yep.
Dominating the Rhode Island market. Like, how did you start with like getting in the industry? I know you had a few conversations with a few people that we have mutual friends with to like
Right.
get in the game, like do this, do that. And I've personally seen your growth, but like for a lot of people out there that don't know,
Yeah.
how, like, where did it start for you, and then how did you plunge into the mortgage industry to like 6 years where you are today? It's
Right.
phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it was a really good timing, and we've talked about that before, right?
Yeah.
2017 was a good time to get into the business. So
Yeah.
I started right after college. So I went to Roger Williams,
Yeah.
which is in Rhode Island. So stayed there, really fell in love with Rhode Island as a state, but I'm
Right.
from Boston. So I didn't really think, or from Burlington, but I didn't really think I should probably start a referral business
Yep.
in a place that I actually know people,
Right.
But I didn't know anybody in Rhode Island. So
Right.
kind of had to figure it out.
That's
as
the
we
craziest
started.
part. Like, so you got into the mortgage industry. You started at,
Yeah.
where were you originally?
It was called the Bank of England.
You were
yeah.
at BOE.
Yeah, Bank of England was my first
Right.
my first job. I was 10 days after graduation.
Right.
I was at Bank of England.
And did you ever think that you would be in this career for as long as you have, or was it just kind of let me test the waters? Or like, who influenced you to get in the mortgage side at first?
Honestly, I really had no idea what this business was. I thought it was a finance job.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But it's like, it is a finance job, but it's also,
People's
it's a people job. Right.
Right.
So when I got into it, I really didn't know, but
Yeah.
I started at a company that did have a really good education
Yep.
side of it. So
Yep.
the 6 months that I was at Bank of England, I'm thankful for those 6 months, but I learned a lot pretty quick, and then I moved on. But
Yeah.
as I started figuring out what it was, and I started seeing other players and what they were doing,
Yeah.
and started to get a feel for actually what the industry was,
Yep.
I fell in love with it pretty quickly, as I'm sure you did the same for real
Yeah,
estate.
like,
it's addicting.
I think, like, obviously I commend you because you moved states. Like,
Yeah.
obviously you're licensed in Mass. You're licensed
Right.
in how many states now? 50?
6.
Six.
So movements in all 50.
Movements in all 50,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I'm in 6 personally, New England and Florida.
Which make the most sense for you
Right.
for your customers.
Right, exactly.
And like I told you at the beginning, like, I attribute so much of what you've done to help me grow and succeed that like we've kind of been on the same trajectory with that. But like, I commend you for the fact that you literally jump states, right? Like, for me in Massachusetts, we're born and raised here. So we get organic business like off the rip without even trying, because people obviously entrust us, they know us, it's easy to come by. So like, just scaling our branding is the most important part of that. We already have that trust. But like, the fact that you went from Mass to Rhode Island, like, that's a huge jump. Like, how did you start from like obviously you started at BOE.
Right.
And then you made that jump. Were you at BOE, Massachusetts, and then you went to Rhode Island?
So I was in Rhode Island from the get-go.
Okay, got you.
From the get-go, just doing training, and then I jumped to movement. So when I first started, I didn't really know anybody. I didn't, have any connections in Rhode Island. And Rhode Island is a super small state, but it's very familial. So if they don't know you, it's really hard to get in. There's only one area code in Rhode Island. It's 401, right? So I have a 339 number because I'm from the Boston area. Yeah. And so people wouldn't even pick up my phone because they're like, why don't you have a 401 number? So,
that's wild.
Yeah, so when I first started, I just figured out that, okay, I just got to be everywhere. Yeah. Right? So we're young, we're hungry, ready to grind. So I just went every networking event, as many open houses as I could go to, just really trying to get to know, people that were like-minded. I met you very early on, like one of the first couple of weeks, really my first connection. And then just trying to figure out other people that were like-minded and let it grow from there.
That's the craziest thing. Like, when we first met, obviously you were at BOE. And like, we met, like, it was organic, but really it wasn't. I think, like, I was thinking about this earlier, like, I think we would have met at some point and crossed paths. Like, we have too many mutual connections and friends, but like, we met literally at the beginning. Like, and I always tell people, like, whether we're actively engaged in deals or not, I'm like, you've been my guy from the start. Like, we like literally learned the industry inside out together, which was like the best part. Like, I learned how to not be an underwriter, not be an LO, but like I learned what to do and what to say because like we legitimately like probably had similar first deals at the same time.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we went through it together. We were like, oh, I didn't know that was coming.
Shout out to Mike Shield on that.
Mike Shield, he's killing it now.
Yeah,
that was our first deal though.
Like talk up like I see, and this is like the gratification for me, and I think and the reason why we've kind of kept like in touch and built the business together is because we have the same goals and attributes towards our clients. Like even Mike is an example. Like he started with a condo. He had, I don't know, 20,000 to put down, 14,000 to put down, fresh out of college. This guy, hot to trot, great guy, but he had a game plan and he entrusted you and I, who were on like deal one at that time, to be like, hey, like get this done. I didn't know what loan program. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I wanted to learn though, and Mike knew that like I was in the trenches with him, and he knew the same with you. But like, talk about that because like now he's on his like 5th property.
I know.
Like shout out to Mike. Honestly,
seriously, he crushed it. That was he bought like a condo for what, like $350.
$350, like not knowing that we ended up getting like a really good deal on it. Like we went through so much stuff. Like I remember you and I were on the phone at like night,
some
like
title issues. I didn't even know what title issues were. Like
it was crazy. And then Mike was on the other end, like hoping everything was just gonna go through. And we're like, like we will be good because you and I
we'll figure it out.
Built that mutual trust together.
Yeah.
And then Mike put that trust in us. Right. And then like from that point on, and that resonated with me. That's got to be like almost 6-7 years. From that point on, I was like, damn, like people trust you with everything. Like this is a client satisfaction business. You're putting your clients first.
Right.
And like everybody, whether you're a junior agent, just learning, junior LO, like you have to learn the business, but you have to gain that trust. And what I realized from the jump was that like you have to earn people's trust and have that knowledge. And the knowledge comes with time, but if you have that baseline knowledge, but you have their trust, that is like the most unstoppable force you can have.
100%.
You can build a legitimate business based off of trust.
Yeah, it's everything. Trust is everything. Education, talking to the clients, making sure that they fully understand it is everything. And that's what we did from day one. Even if we didn't really know the answers right off the top of our heads, we're going to figure it out.
We're going to figure it out.
And we're always going to have their best interest in mind because this is a relationship business.
100%.
Right? It's not transactional. There's definitely loan officers and realtors that are transactional where they're not really acting in the best interest of their clients at all times.
And that kind of leads me into like the segue. So like obviously Mike and we've tackled so many first-time home buyers and like we've gained so much like credibility and gratification from doing that, and like we've built successful business off of that. But at some point we have to learn to refine our business, turn it into a business. Because at first, and I think a lot of real estate agents don't understand this, is that like you're an agent, yes, you're your own entity, but you have to treat yourself like a business. Because if you don't, you'll be out of the industry in like 3 to 5 years because you're running around rapid. Like I want to hear more about like how you went from BOE to movement. And you know, don't get this twisted because the movement group and the movement mortgage, two different brands and entities, but it's just so funny. We literally align even with brand names. But like, I want to hear about like, and I never asked you this personally, but like, how did you go from Bank of England to the Dellemonico team, having now how many people on your team?
Yeah, we're up to 9 now, so we have 9 total. So yeah, it was a long time to get there, but it all happened pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know, 6 years is not a short amount of time, but we grew every year. So when I left BOE, I wanted to make one more move. Right. I didn't want to jump ship every couple of years. So I did a lot of research on the company, and it really just aligned with what I was looking for. And everything that they were saying, I was like, all right, if 50% of what they're saying is true, it's going to be a good fit.
And you got in super early with movement.
Yeah. So movement was started in 2008. Was really the first day that they were open was in 2008, and they really started growing in 2015. They didn't come to Rhode Island until 2015.
What drew you to them? Like, was it the fact that they were almost like a startup vibe, or like what was
so it was their process was the most important thing to them. Because if you think about it from a loan officer's perspective, the customer interaction is crucial. The marketing, the branding is crucial. But at the end of the day, getting the client closed smoothly is the most important thing. Right. I could be the best at marketing. If my process sucks, nobody's going to use me. Right. It doesn't matter. It's all extra stuff. So the process is the number one thing, and that's really where they hung their hat. They coined the upfront underwriting, which now most companies do upfront underwriting. You know what I mean? But that was their stick from day one. No one in Rhode Island was doing upfront underwriting.
No one was doing that in general.
Anywhere. So they had that, and so that was a way for me to get my foot in the door and have those conversations really young. I was 23 when I first started. So who's going to trust a 23-year-old with their biggest? But now I have this big company behind me.
It's crazy.
They really hang their hat on a good process. It was just it was a good fit.
And you started at 23. You're 28 now.
Yep.
Like people ask me all the time, like, oh, how long you been in the industry? I'm like, going on 8 years almost, but like it feels like 25 because, and this is kind of like, you built that process, but like, in my opinion, you did that in half the time that most successful LOs have done that. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think the market was, the lending industry and the real estate industry is an older space, right? We're kind of the anomaly for getting in as young as we did. So I think it was prime for a new generation, a new wave to come in and really start having some success. I think our knowledge about social media technology was a huge help because it's such a fast industry, right? You got to be on the ball 24/7, right? If someone needs to put an offer on a Saturday, I need to be able to get it done in an hour time, right? So the industry was primed for somebody to step in and really kind of not just do it, but do it and then pour gasoline on the fire. You know? So when I started gaining traction, I was like, this is, I'm actually kind of decent at this. I think I can make something here.
And people love, like, they loved you before the mortgage industry. They loved you before the real estate game. And I feel like that's like having trust is so important.
Yeah, it's huge.
And like the fact that you were able to grow, like, and you have a phenomenal team, by the way. Like, everybody is like, I don't know whether you trained them or they came from another space. They're all phenomenal and they work like so fluid with each other.
They get it. Yeah, they're all in on it.
They just get it.
Yeah, they get it, and they're a reflection of me. And they're all better than me.
How do you what's your team model? Like, you don't have to get like too much, but how do you break it down? Like, when you first built that team, like at what point were you like, damn, I need a team.
Yeah.
I need more than just a loan processor. At what point in time was that? Like, tell me, like, on a yearly basis, like, you were the top lender in Rhode Island last year. Like, was that when you were like, okay, I need to build a team to keep this sustainable? Like, when did that kind of click on you? Like, okay, this is when things need to change.
Yeah, my first hire was in 2018, so I was about 2 years in at that point, a year and a half in, and I was looking for bottlenecks, right? Any business, you have to find your bottleneck. Where are you getting hung up? And so what I was finding was I couldn't do the marketing, pre-approve the client, and then when they got under contract, do all of the stuff that needed to get done. You were doing
everything. Dude, like, everything. I've never seen a LO, and I will say this in public, I've never seen someone friggin' go through the whole process from start to finish. Like, I remember you showed up to the first closing that we had, but I was like, damn, like, this is his job every effing time. Like, he went from pre-approving these guys to, like, digging in title issues, like, slamming emails to the other agents. I was like, damn. I'm like, if this is what he does and this is what I do, I'm like, damn, we're in it for, like, the long run. But, like, that's when you were like, I got to figure something out.
And then I was like, I got to figure something out. I can't scale. It's not as sustainable. I couldn't do that,
No, we would be probably dead right now if we were doing that. I'm going to be honest.
We would be dead and single.
Or we'd be out of the industry.
We would not. No one would want to.
But we learned you and I both learned the process that way, being in the trenches. Like, we never said at one point that we ate shit for like probably 3 years in this industry
100%.
to understand and learn the values. But like, okay, so at that point, so your timeline is basically 2.5 years in, you brought on somebody. After that, did it just like snowball?
And then so I was like, oh wow. So one person allowed me to grow. I did 17 million my first year. And with lending, it's different than real estate. We need to do more transactions, and so I pretty much tripled from 2018 to 2019, 17 to 43 million, and that was where I was like, wow. So if I just add a teammate, that allows me to free up my time, not free up my time to not work. It's free up my time to work on different parts of the business. I never added a person so that I could take time off or that I could work less. It was always, I'm going to add a person so that I can continue to work the crazy hours that we work, but doing the things that it's my highest and best use. It's what you're the best at, right? Negotiating for your clients, walking them through the process. You don't need to do the paperwork stuff. Yeah, exactly. So find the bottlenecks, find really good people that buy in. Really only one person on my team, looking back, had mortgage experience. And then they were just good people who worked hard and they bought in. And then so I figured out if I could just add a piece, it would grow, add another piece, grow. And then we're in a really good spot right now. We're up to 9 people, and everybody's bought in. Everybody serves a very important role on the team, and it's like a family. So it's grown pretty consistently.
Yeah, and like that's insane. And you have unbelievable retention. Everyone seems like they're super happy.
Yeah,
Everyone
that's the thing
has
I'm most
role.
proud of. No one has ever left.
That's crazy.
The first person that I hired on my team, still on my team, and I've never had any turnover.
And it just it speaks volumes when you have that, and you have the reputation behind you, and you have a lot of real estate agents who also kind of fanboy that too. And they're like, okay, like you've created a brand where people are like, I want to work with him because of him. And like, I think that's more important than anything else.
Well, yeah, when they with your same thing with you, right? With your company, it's important to have a good brand, right?
Yes.
You need to have a company that people know that it's got a good connotation to it. But at the end of the day, they don't go to you for Compass. They don't go to me for movement. They go to us for us, right? As long as the company backs it. And I mean, that's exactly what you do as well.
Yeah, I explain that sort of like an infrastructure, right? So like Compass is, I'm a broker, so I can take my license, I can hang it anywhere, I can start up my own brokerage tomorrow. I wouldn't do that because Compass offers me so many different benefits, between having like a, technological advance compared to most companies and creating an ecosystem for like buyers and sellers.
Right.
So it's a lot of overhead that I don't have to pay for. Like I'm not going to pay to design an app. I'm not going to pay to set up my buyers to have integrations with the MLS and be able to do coming soon products and so many different, valuable traits that Compass offers. But then you have beautiful offices and network connections around the country, which is amazing. Yep. It's like it's priceless. And then you have the Movement Group. Right. And for me, that's the sub brand of Compass because we just stand behind Compass. We rep them. Like we love their business model. We understand that there's going to be growing pains, which they've had in the past few years.
And the leadership too, right? You're on board with the leadership.
Exactly. And the leadership is right there with it. A lot of people don't understand that Compass is a newer company. We're talking about they just turned 10 years old, dude.
Yeah. Yep.
Same with Movement. How old's Movement?
Yeah, they're 2008, so about 15. So right in that same.
Okay, so like
babies.
when people are like, okay, like they're passionate about it. Look, we're a startup. Like and at the end of the day, like the CEO cares about the agents because I'm in the trenches with them. I have great contacts with my managers with that, and they take care of us, and they continue to do so. And we just built like a great community. So like for us, we have that brand, but then we have the sub brand with TMG, and we built that to a point of like, we can be anywhere at any time, and people are going to say to you like, "How are you doing, Dante? How's the Movement Group doing?" And then they look at Compass, but Compass is that
it's like the third layer.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's
the third Dante, layer. Then the Movement Group, and then it's Compass.
And then it's Compass.
All three need to be in synergy, but at the end of the day, it starts with you, and then it's your team, and then it's your company, which is
it's so important. Like we talk about this all the time. Like if you don't have a brand behind you, and you don't have people that believe in you, like you don't have anything going on. Like you like a lot of people. Unfortunately, like a lot of people come in the industry for the wrong reasons, right? And they go join this like brokerage that promises them everything, or they give you a huge split and huge this, and then you're like, oh my god, I got all this money, this is crazy, whatever. But then you're like, well, what do I do? How do I start? Like this doesn't. So like you need to have that model and that infrastructure in place, and like that's why I built the Movement Group to keep it like a generic name, generic household, and then we have Compass, and then people look at me. So like we have all these different like avenues and angles that we can tackle, but it's almost beneficial for me because it's resourceful for my team. So like when I hire on, my team understands that they have me as an asset and my business partner, and then they also have Compass, and then they can also leverage what the Movement Group has for notoriety. Right. And I just think that like that's just another parallel of like when you joined Movement in what
2017 and almost 2018.
So you joined literally when I was
starting Movement. I remember when you were starting it. It was you, Torn, and Jason. I think.
Yeah.
Right? You guys to see what you guys have grown into now.
Yes, it's crazy.
You're a breeding ground for really great agents.
It's crazy.
And their social media presence are always spot on. It's really cool. I can always tell who's on your team just by their social media.
By the social
media. You know what I mean?
Because
it all looks the same. Like, the personalities are different, but the videos are all cut up perfectly.
That's crazy.
You guys all add really good value. That's the thing, is adding value.
It's huge.
Right. It's not just about, looking cool. It's like you guys are truly putting out content that helps consumers. Right. Which I think often times in the space, it can be overlooked.
So similar to like kind of how you have like, you can retain, you have great employee retention. That's what we try to create with us too. And even when we go back to like the hiring phase, right? Like if we have an interview with somebody, like it's as crazy as it sounds, I don't care about their real estate background. I don't give a shit because I don't have any family in the real estate background. Like I grew up in a medium to larger family business that was local to New England. Like I didn't have any real estate experience. Like
you would never know though. You never know. When I first saw who you were, I was like, oh, this guy's knows all.
But like that's my point, right? So like when I hire someone, I'm not like, oh, you're in real estate? What's your GCI? What's your production? I don't give a shit. If you have a huge following behind you, you just might not know how to tap into that following, and then you could become the rainmaker. Because again, I can teach you that process. We've learned that together. So if I bring on somebody that's a hire, I can say, okay, you're not familiar with the industry, but you're going to learn from me for about a year, but you have this vast network of people you can tap into. But the biggest thing other than social media, and you probably agree with this, is that they have to align with their thought process and how they perceive the industry to be.
Yeah.
Because the biggest interview question that I have with people, and I say this to everybody, I'm like, what's your why?
Yep.
Like, what is your why? And like, if their why doesn't align with what I think my why is, it's not a fit. And like, it has to be something within the realm of helping people, having like a satisfaction greater than just going to make money in your pocket, and inevitably like bettering the world, and that betters yourself, right? Like,
and the communities that you're working in. I mean, it's a culture fit, right?
Right.
Because if they're going to put on your jersey, if they're going to wear the movement group brand, if they're going to wear, my team's brand, they need to be a good culture fit.
Yeah.
Because one bad culture fit can really spoil everything. It's so important. You don't want to grow too fast, right?
Right.
You don't want to grow. You don't want to just take anyone off the street. Now that's what a lot of teams do is they'll just take anybody. But like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It needs to be a good culture fit. It needs to be aligned with what you guys already have in place, or how can anybody else buy into it?
Yeah, your why is like literally like that's my first question. I'm walking in the room like, what's your why? Like, thank you for coming, but what's your why? And like, I've had interviews where people have walked out like in 5 minutes because I'm like, I just don't know if this is going to be in alignment. Like, that's because like, if you're not asking the questions that are the most important at an interview, you're doing a disservice to yourself and the person you're interviewing. And like, you probably have been through this too. Like, if you don't have that aligned, like the follower count, I would argue, is one of the most important aspects. But then if your why doesn't align, then you're just being resistant. Like you have this false sort of like this false perception of what the real estate industry is. And some people have said to me, I like showing pretty houses, or I like, seeing these $1 million paychecks, or whatever the case may be. But I'm like, okay, like this is
not a good fit.
It's just like we're like so far off that like I don't even want to explain like really like how the industry is.
Yeah.
And fortunately, like I have a great team. I love my team. They all work their asses off, and they put in the work, and they're doing content like on the daily 24/7 because they know that's how they boost their brand and their awareness. And they have their own brands too. Like, and they're just not like piggybacking off the fact of like they're at Compass and they're at the movie. Like, they have their own brands. And they're establishing
and push
themselves.
it hard. And then they got their client's best interest in mind at 100%. All times. And like, it's very clear.
Yeah, and it's so important to have that, because if they don't have their own identity, like you're pretty much just mirroring like what like you have that becomes a false perception of the industry. Like, I tell my guys all the time, I'm like, you have the Compass brand, you have the TMG brand, and then you have your own sub brand. And like, that's so important.
It's huge. No, it's absolutely huge. And then when the real estate starts flowing, they have you to figure out.
You have me as an asset.
How many deals have you seen? You've seen pretty much everything. Now we get surprised every now and
then.
Yeah,
we do.
Especially with COVID, there's some funky stuff going on. But they can go to you, and then with the real meat of potatoes is the real estate side, which is what you have the brain for. You've been through everything. We've been in the trenches. We've seen all of the issues that can possibly come up, and the industry is definitely getting harder right now. From when we started to now, it's like I would not want to really start right now.
Right.
It's a little harder, to get rolling. It's less deals to be had, and we're starting to see some scary stuff in this space. It's changing so quickly. You got to adapt with it. But how can a new agent stand alone and figure all of this out without a team?
Right.
Without somebody like you to really pick their brain.
I have a question for you in terms of the change of the environment. I'm not going to ask you the crystal ball question about where do you think the market is going, but I'm going to ask you, what are some indications other than interest rates that the market's changing? And this could be from like drop off of like like not necessarily budget cuts, but like layoffs, or like what is other indicators other than the obvious, which is interest rates, that you feel that the market is changing? And like, again, we could talk about changing, then I could get 15 offers on one of my properties tomorrow. Like, how that goes. But like, I think what you're talking about is deeper rooted than just like the actual real estate market, like price change fluctuation. I think you're talking about like industry, like peers as well.
It's huge. It's a great question, because a lot of things that people don't look at, especially in the United States right now, is the population is a huge part of how the market will move in the next 3 to 5 years. Past that, it's really hard to tell. But I think we can forecast in the next 3 to 5 years with some accuracy of what's going to happen. And a lot of it's tied to supply and demand, right? Everyone's the crash, they wait for prices to come down.
Facts.
It's really challenging to explain to people, on a broad scale, why that's really not possible, right? In order for any price in any industry to come down, there needs to be more more supply than demand. And right now, there's so much demand for housing, and the supply. As of yesterday, I think there was 785 homes for sale in Rhode Island.
No way.
In the whole state of Rhode Island.
I'm not going to
785.
What's like the
population's a million.
Wow.
So if you think about it, it is 785. So how is it possible
That's crazy.
that prices can come down when there's only 785? So there's such a shortage of housing right now, and I don't think that there's any, at least in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, there's not these massive developments there's developments,
but they're not catered to the specific demographic who needs them, which is a first-time home buyer.
Yeah, they're not 350 grand, 500 grand. They're these $1 million properties. So how can you possibly have prices come down when demand is so high and supply is so low? So you think about the United States and population growth, right? It's so important. Now I know, like long term, Elon Musk is big on like the population is going to decline at some point, but that's not in the next 3 to 5 years.
It could be generations.
It's possible that the replacement rate may, be slowing. But if you think about it, the United States grows 1% every year. Like that's approximately how much it grows. It's 3 million people a year. Where are those people going to live?
I don't know.
They're not making any more land. And Rhode Island's it's such a tiny state, so it's. I don't think prices are coming down anytime soon, regardless of what rates do. If rates went past 7 into the 8s, 9s, maybe, but we're on the way back down, and we're starting to see it get a lot busier.
Arguably, if the Feds increase their rates and the interest rates for mortgages do increase, arguably you're doing a disservice to the civilians within the United States. And my rationale behind that is that you're basically you're ruining the American dream for somebody by doing that at that point, because now you're basically saying, I'm just trying to have people not be able to afford real estate whatsoever. Because let's say the rates hypothetically went to 8%. And you have 30% loss of first-time home buyers because of that. You still have 70% of buyers in that market who are the biggest wealth change was from baby boomers to millennials. Now you still have a giant population of millennials, and then I believe it's Gen Z who are now emerging in the market. So like as much as you might take out 30% of that market, you're taking them out for the wrong reasons right now, like because the prices are still increasing. So it's like
not getting any easier.
They're not getting easier.
Yeah, no, it's affordability is the thing that we look at, right? So the monthly payment compared to like income and what they can afford, and it's really challenging. Inflation is starting to come down. There's a big inflation report on Tuesday, and that'll really set the stage for the year. As soon as inflation starts coming down, we're going to see rates come down, which that'll be huge for the industry, it'll be huge for the market. Although, I mean, it's just going to spur more demand, right? So there's no real light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because there's no supply coming on.
Correct.
In Massachusetts, I know you guys have this supply issue as well. Right?
I mean, look,
not you guys are listing properties left and right.
As
a whole,
we're staying consistent, but it's obviously not enough to provide for the general population within Mass. But fortunately, we've continued to ramp up our business year over year. But what we find is that, 1 week I'll tell you that the suburbs are cranking and we're getting over 15 offers. I had 12 offers on my property last weekend.
Crazy.
And then I would say, last week, and again, I'll eat my words because it changes every week. And then I'd say, oh, Boston is slow. I had 2 properties on the market over 100 days in Boston. I just got offers on both of those properties sitting on the market. And it's like the market is fluctuating and changing every single week. Look, like I think at the end of the day, we need more inventory. Yes. That's inevitable. I think we need inventory in all the major New England areas. And I don't think it's going to ever come down per se, because if you have a developer who purchased, let's say, 12 lots of land in Middleton, Mass, right? As much as you want to be Superman or Superwoman and build those properties to spec at a $300,000 to $500,000 value, the developer is going to say, what's in it for me? Right? Like that doesn't do any good. So like, for instance, people argue all the time that like there's not enough to build. That is correct. There's not much land left to build on. But like when there is land procured,
they're not building 300.
They're not building 300. So like the alternative to that, and I tell people this all the time, obviously find something that somebody's lived in. They're buying it. It's a secondary sale or whatever the case may be. Or just move your search a little bit further out. Like, people talk about being 15, 20 minutes north of Boston, and I always ask them why. And they're like, oh, it's my commute. I'm like, well, if we can just kind of, go another 10 minutes out, you're likely to get something a little bit newer or new for potentially $100,000 less than where you were looking before. How's that sound?
Yeah, it's significant. And especially with working from home now. So many people have that ability. You've kind of taken over the North Shore, right? Because it is a little further from Boston. It's still great areas, great school systems. I mean, mean, Massachusetts has the best public school system in the nation, right? You know, so it's huge that you have such a good location, and even then you go into New Hampshire, right? Even more price flexibility.
Right.
Rhode Island, we've seen a lot of people come from Massachusetts because working remote, so why not save $150,000 on
go to the beach too, hit up Newport.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you guys got
a lot to do down there.
It is. There's a lot to do with such a short distance. And I'm only licensed in Mass, but I'm okay with giving my clients the best interest. Like at the end of the day, like I think I would probably say about 90% of my clients who want to buy in Mass will stay in Mass.
Stay in Mass, yeah. You'll find them what they want.
Yeah, and like 10% I'll have to refer. Yeah. And that's okay.
Right.
But like I want to see them obviously do well. And that's again goes back to that like affliction with like our agreement, I should say, with like our goals and like our alignment with that. We just want to see people do well.
Right.
You know?
It's not about us, it's about them.
Right.
But the reality is Mass is such a diverse state that you can find anything you want in Massachusetts.
Right, exactly.
You don't need to go anywhere else. It's just you got everything there.
You do.
Yeah.
And I have one question to wrap it up. So like talk about like your support. Like you have people around you that support you. We talked about this yesterday, but like how important is it in this industry to have support, whether it's your friends, your family? Because I think that, and again, we're talking, this is almost catered to a lot of like new LOs and like new agents. Like how important is it to like, you can't just waltz in this industry and start making money and doing sales. Like how important is it to have, and we talked about your team helping you out, but how important is it to have outside influences and factors supporting you with this industry?
Yeah, this industry is a grind. It can really beat you down. A lot of people don't make it out of their first 2 years. I wouldn't want to go back to the first year. I mean, think about the first year, right? You're hustling, you're working crazy hours, you don't really know what you're doing, you're just trying to figure it out, and you're making no money because we're a commission-based business, right? So it's really hard. So if you're getting into the space, you have to be willing to sacrifice, right? It's a huge sacrifice. Think about doctors, right? Before they become doctors, they do a residency. And when they're doing a residency or they're an intern at a hospital, they're not making any money and they're working 80 hours a week, right? That's what you're going to do in the real estate space. That's what you're going to do in the mortgage space. It's going to be a year to 2 years of really grinding to get your roots down, to prove yourself in the space, and then you can take off from there. Maybe it happens a little bit quicker than that, but your family, your friends need to know that that's communicating that vision to them, that goal, that you're an entrepreneur. You're starting a business, so maybe you're not going to be able to go out on weekends every night. Right. Maybe you're not going to be able to take the vacation or go golfing with your boys. You have to make sacrifices. But any business owner would have to make sacrifices too. So do you want to go work for somebody, which is nothing wrong with that, or if you do want to build your business, you need friends and family that understand that what you're doing is bigger than just you. Yeah, I mean, you literally dropped the mic on that. There's no other way to answer that question. And I mean, there could be, but like I 100% agree. There's like you have to have, whether it's in your head or written down, like you got to have a plan in mind, and like you nailed it on the head, man. You're crushing it. Yeah, so. I think mindset's big too, because it is such a stressful business that you got to get yourself right. You got to, make sure you're taking care of yourself, because it is a grind. You work every day. I was thinking the other day, when do you think the last time that you went a day without saying real estate or talking about something about houses to somebody?
Oh man, I think I'll tell you. 0 days, because I had showings on Christmas Eve. I got an offer accepted this year on Christmas Eve, and I was texting my clients on Christmas Day, which for me, one of the highest holidays of the year, especially being Catholic and whatnot. But like and again that I always would think that like the holidays were the days off, but the holidays are actually the days on. And it's funny you say that, because I tell this to people all the time. Holidays are one of the busiest days for me, because that's when people are off, and it's when you get deals. But that's when people are off on their jobs, so they're looking even more. Like think about with COVID, like everyone was working from home, they were chilling, they were home at night, like they were just kind of kicking it. They had a little bit more free time and flexibility to do things. They kind of like they didn't have a commute for 2 years, so they would text me like 10 o'clock at night, 8 a.m. But like, to answer your question in short, no, I haven't had a day off. Ever. But I don't care, because I love it.
You're not working, right? You don't feel like
you're working. And I think the last point I'll make is that, and I tell this to my team members all the time, a lot of people will say we separate work from business, and I agree with that in 98% of the industries. But with real estate and LO, you have to integrate your life with real estate. And if you don't integrate, and you try to separate those two, you're never going to be able to win the battle. You're never going to be able to hit your goals. And maybe at some point down the road, you can separate those. But we are in a customer-faced, client satisfaction, nonstop, 24/7, high-demand business. And the moment that you let off the gas with that is the moment that everybody else is going to take advantage of what you're doing and be better than you.
Yep. There's always somebody on your back. You talk about a mic drop. Always. That's what completely well said. It's always 24/7, but we love it. So
we'll keep crushing it, brother. I'm proud of you. Man. Where should we follow you if people want to follow you right now?
Adam Dellemonico team on Instagram is the best place.
Adam Dellemonico team. And your emails are amazing too.
Oh yeah. Yep. The email list for sure. Yep. So adam.dellemonico@movement.com.
Thanks, brother. Keep crushing it.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thanks.